Clickbait articles! Yes, I've seen one recently. Something about how Alpine might be on the way out because of the absolute carnage that's happening behind the scenes. Because, well, it's a summer break and people have to do whatever they can to get some clicks going before silly season starts in about, what, a month from now? But while there are those articles with titles that just scream "click me" like Gil the desperate salesman from The Simpsons, there might actually be something within the madness here because, well, behind the scenes at Alpine it's not looking good, is it? And Renault is one of the manufacturers that's had a lot of success in Formula 1, particularly as an engine manufacturer. When they signed on with Williams in 1990, they had, up until the end of the 1997 season, 70 wins in 130 races shared between the Williams and Benetton teams. In 1995, a Renault-powered car won all but one Grand Prix. As a constructor, they have two constructors' titles as the Renault team in 2005 and 2006, but the team from Enstone's history goes all the way back to 1984, when it was Toleman. That team was bought by the Benetton family, which then won the titles in 1994 and 1995 with Michael Schumacher, and then Renault bought the team in time for the 2002 season, I think it was, before selling it again at the end of 2009 or 2010, with the French company rescuing the doomed Lotus team and entering as Renault again in 2016. So just like the hokey cokey, Renault is like the left foot. It's in, it's out. It seems to hang around a bit, leave, come back, then leave, then come back. They're the John Frusciante or Lindsey Buckingham of motorsport. In recent weeks, the Alpine team saw the departure of Otmar Szafnauer, who was sacked over the Belgian Grand Prix weekend. Something that was just, well, out of the blue, really. But now, Szafnauer has been quoted in many of the motorsport outlets, the more tabloidy ones using phrases like "hits out" and "savages Renault" in their titles, like their YouTube video titles, where he's basically said that what Renault wanted versus what was achievable weren't exactly the same thing. Talking to Jason Stein on his SiriusXM show, Szafnauer explained that Renault was being too hands-on with the Formula 1 operation, and how he'd actually left his position at Aston Racing Point Force Jordan or wherever it was to avoid, well, that whole thing in the first place. The parent company wanted to have a lot of control in a lot of areas of the racing team, more than I've ever seen before. You know, the commercial area, the marketing area, HR, finance, communication, all that stuff reported not to me, but around me, to somebody else in the bigger organisation, and they all act like a navy, and we have to be pirates in order to win. So if you say all else equal, the cars are equal, the drivers are equal, the powertrain's equal, your knowledge of the tyres is, but what isn't equal is the fact that a Mercedes or a Red Bull have HR, finance, well especially finance now because of the cost cap, all commercial aspects and communication reporting to Christian, and we don't. Guess who's going to win? Red Bull. I think the senior management at Renault, the CEO Luca Di Maio, wants, as everyone does in F1, success instantly, and unfortunately that's not how it works in Formula 1. And under the newer cost cap rules, the ability for anyone to make a problem go away just by lobbing money at it has long gone, and I guess because Formula 1 in this modern era costs so much, the manufacturers, sponsors, whoever want the results instantly because they want the returns on their investments. It's like the football managers being sacked on the regular, that sort of thing. But when the shareholders are involved, as they probably will for this kind of thing, they want their dividends. And they want their dividends to be bigger year on year. It should also be mentioned here that the termination of Szafnauer's position was mutually agreed, and that he's just been moved somewhere else within the Renault group. You know, just to be balanced and all of that. I'm guessing it is like that whole football manager thing. Give me results or GTFO, no matter how unrealistic and deranged and deluded your expectations are. And I'm sure a lot of people listening to this or watching this have been in this position before because they've been working at a particular business or corporation where it's, I want X amount in 10 minutes. It's not doable. But if you say it can't be done or if you say no, they try to sack you. Szafnauer also talks about Alpine and Renault's 100 race plan to get to the front, which was initially a much faster target before Otmar managed to persuade them that the original figure was too quick. But as it stands, as of the Belgian Grand Prix 2023, they're about 45 races or so into that plan, and they're no closer to the front than they were 2.5 years ago. They're currently being outperformed by McLaren and Aston Martin, and sit in a sort of no man's land in the middle of the constructors' table on 57 points, versus McLaren on 103 and Williams on 11. But between the Szafnauer sacking, the absolute carnage surrounding the Oscar Piastri situation, the performances seemingly standing still in terms of progression, and the fact that Renault is the only one of the manufacturers on the grid without a customer team, the parent company might actually start considering a sale, and once again leaving Formula 1. But this might all depend on how much has already been put into the 2026 engines. Karun Chandhok seems to think Alpine could go, with the clickbait articles saying things like, Chandhok thinks massive F1 team could leave F1. Lads, it's not Red Bull, Merkel, Ferrari, give it a rest. It's like Premier League legend forced to retire, and it's Ben Davis. What's interesting to note here is that 2 of the 3 employees gone in the last month or so from Alpine are big names. One of those is Alan Permain, who has been with the team when it was still called Benetton and has held virtually every job in the engineering department before becoming the sporting director in 2012, back when it was Lotus with Kimi and Grosjean. He started his career there in 1989, so he's been at Enstone longer than I've been alive. The other is Pat Fry, a man who has worked for several teams but is still a well-known name behind the scenes at teams in Formula 1. He left Benetton in 1993 to join McLaren, and then went to Ferrari, Manor, back to McLaren, and was then at Renault/Alpine from 2020 to just recently, with Fry now off to Williams. Fry's replacement is Matt Harmon, who was promoted from within the team, but his previous job prior to joining Alpine was... oh god, right, I've got to read this. Head of Powertrain Integration and Transmission Design at Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula 1 team. Try fitting that on your business card. And actually, he'd been at Mercedes for a while because he was working out of the old Ilmore place in Brixworth between 2000 and 2011. He had to shorten that job down on his LinkedIn profile as well. Oh god, he's not one of those I get up at 3 AM to spend 6 seconds with my kids and then do my yoga and then take my Porsche to work #productive LinkedIn guys, is he? Some would say that Alpine is starting to look like Toyota, a big name with big pedigree sitting in the perpetual midfield with the odd flash of brilliance. The only difference is, thanks to the cost cap, there is no chance of Alpine and Renault spending the money that Toyota did. Plus, Alpine's actually won a race. It seems that Alpine is currently suffering from zero autonomy, the parent company sticking its nose in and telling people what to do, which is completely the opposite to what actually needs to be done, or what can be done, or what is actually realistic. What they need is a Jean Todt moment. They need someone to go in and go, ooh, this is a lovely little project. What's it called? Oh, brilliant. Right, I'm changing its name to mine. You don't listen to that guy, you listen to me if you want this to work. But I'd like to know what you think, because Renault has such a rich history in Formula 1, for it to sit where it currently is doesn't quite match what we know they're capable of. Too much interference, or are they actually this generation's Toyota? And should they get sold off? Potentially to, well, Andretti? Somebody like that? So then, a look at the current amount of carnage surrounding the Alpine F1 team. If this has given you food for thought, then do leave your own opinions in the designated comment submission zone. And while scrolling down, like the video if I've made some good points, and subscribe so you never miss out on anything I do here. Massive thanks as ever to the kind folk at Patreon, and if you want to help support me on a more personal level, there's a link in the description to Patreon, as well as Discord, socials, F1 Store affiliate link, and other bits and pieces you might want to know or need to know. Well, there's super thanks if you just want to buy me a coffee. So until next time, I've been Millward, have a great day wherever you are, and goodbye.